And hello everyone, welcome back to another C++ tutorial. So, in the previous tutorial we built a calculator. In this tutorial we are going to look at getting random numbers. Because some older languages such as C++ has a kind of weird quirk when it comes to generating random numbers. You'll see this quirk in things or in languages such as Pascal or Delphi, Lua, C++, C. Wherever you find an old language, you'll probably see something like this. Well, not necessarily. It exists in basically all languages, but some of them makes it more obvious. Anyhow, so let's get to actually generating some random numbers. So first, up here, I want to include cstdlib. Now cstdlib will allow us to use the random function. Alright, now let's use that function, see what we get. So just rand like that. Simple as that. We should probably go std : rand. And let's see if that works. And there we go, we get a random number. Now let's actually do it again. Okay, interesting. Now you'll notice we get the same number every time we run this. Now this is the quirk I talked about, where we kind of have to tell it to give us a more random number. Now a way to do this is to give it a seed. Now a seed you can think of is kind of like telling it, okay, I give you this number, now do some cool math in the backend and give me a new number back. And I'll show you this in a second. So let's include another library here called ctime. And this is just so we can access some timing. And now here we can say std : srand. And srand is basically to give us this, or so we can specify a seed value. And then in here, we can specify time at index 0. Now, actually, before we use time, let's just put a number in there first. Let's make that 1, right? Now, we get this number. Run it again, we get the same number. Now, let's change that to, let's say, 2. What do we get now? We get a different number. Okay, that's interesting. Let's make this 3. We get a different number. So whatever changes in here gives us a different number. Now let's actually see out what we get if we use time. If we run this, and this should most likely be std : time. Actually, no, I think it should just be time, but we should actually specify a number. My bad. Let's try this again. There we go. So we get an interesting number. Let's run it again. We get another interesting number. You'll notice this number increases constantly. So 818, 823, 827. What we're basically getting here is the time from like 1977 or something, not quite sure when, but the amount of seconds that has passed since then up until this point. So every second, this value will be a different number. And some of you will probably see where I'm getting at. So if we specify time here, with 0 in there, then we'll get a random seed, or we'll get a seed that is different every second. So once they run this application, the seed will change. So every time they run it, they'll get a different value, as long as they haven't tried to run it within the same second. So there we go, random number, random number, random number. And every second we'll get a random number because the seed changes. I'm not going to go too deep into the seed because there's a bunch of unnecessary things we have to cover. I'm just going to cover it from a high level. So basically, put number in here, seed changes. When seed different, random number changes. Good. Now, how can we get a random number, let's say between 0 and 9? Well, that's pretty simple. We just say modulo and 10. This will give us a random number between 0 and 9. Not 1 and 10, but 0 and 9. So if we were to run this, we'll get 9, 8, 8, 6, 1, 4. Now if you want to get between 0 or including 1 and 10, now what you can do is you can do that plus 1. Now it will give us a random number between 0 and 9, and then we just add 1 to it to give us 1 or 10. Now we get 9, 3, 2, 1, yeah. And that gives us a random number. Now the nice thing is we can copy and paste this as many times as we want. Now we will always get a random number. As you can see there, 4967993. But if we were to remove this, then we'll still get random numbers, different ones, but they will always be the same. So run it again, we still get the same order of random numbers. So yeah, that's the basics of getting a random number in C++. So it just has a little quirk where you need to specify the time, or a seed at least. It doesn't necessarily have to be time, but you gotta specify a seed, and then that seed will determine the random numbers. And yeah, that's the basics. Thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you all again in the next C++ tutorial.